Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO much like World of Warcraft, Guild Wars, and so on. It runs on a hotbar click to target damage system, pretty typical when it comes to MMOs. But this is where the typicality ends. To start, we'll take a look at classes. When creating a new character, you have to choose one of the starting classes, much in line with typical RPGs. The thing to keep in mind is that level 30, those classes evolve into their respective jobs. These are your classes you'll be playing at max level. First, we have the tanks. The gladiator goes from a sword and board soldier to a light wielding paladin, while the marauder wields a large two handed axe and they turn into the very strong and self sufficient warrior. Next, we have the ever important healers. Their starting jobs are the conjurer and the arcanist. The conjurer is the healing purist. While they do have some damaging spells, their main thing is healing. They can specialize into a white mage, one of the endgame's best and most demanded healing classes. The arcanist is one of the most interesting starting classes, as it has a bit of healing and a bit of damage. But at level 30, you can unlock both scholar and summoner, more on that later. The scholar is a healer with great raid-wide heals and can still do some off damage during that downtime in a boss fight. Does that exist? Now, the Punchy Boys, or Melee DPS. For Melee DPS, we have Pugilist, Lancer, and Rogue. Pugilist is a bare-knuckle boxer who can move real fast and specializes into the Monk class at level 30. If you like old Kung Fu movies or UFC, this class is for you. The Lancer turns into one of my favorite classes, the Dragoon. No, not that Dragoon. That Dragoon. Yes, a quick, moving, high jumping, free falling melee DPS with a weapon longer than the sword they use to execute Highlanders with. Caution. Please be advised that playing the Dragoon class means jumping into and out of boss mechanics and spending a lot of the time dead on the ground. The Rogue is a stealthy, rogue. It's a rogue. Cloak, dagger, poisons, you get the idea. But at level 30, by God, you channel your inner shinobi and roleplay as any of your favorite anime characters as you play the ninja. And now, the Shooty Boys, Magic Edition. The Thaumaturge is your typical mage, arcane fire and ice. Then they can specialize into the edgelords themselves, the Black Mage. Have you ever wanted to wear all black clothes? Feel like the coolest guy in the room while summoning meteors out of the sky? And hey, maybe the Black Mage is for you. The Arcanist is the class we mentioned earlier. They cast spells while having a shiny carbuncle by your side. Once you hit level 30, you can upgrade from a carbuncle to a primal. Well, not a primal, but like his cousin or roommate or something. And finally, the Shooty Boys non-magic edition. The only class in this one, at least to start out, is the Archer. The Archer is a bow-wielding, archer. I don't know. A lot of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. But at level 30, they actually throw you a curveball with this one. The Archer turns into a Bard, a ranged DPS specialist that can also provide huge party buffs and boss debuffs, as well as playing some sweet, sweet tunes from their instrument of choice. No, really, this happened in-game. Next to mentioning is one of the biggest factors in the game. When playing World of Warcraft, I know I was guilty of mindlessly clicking through quest text, reading the objective, and being about my way. Meanwhile, the MSQ, or main story quest line, this is a huge driving factor to Final Fantasy XIV. But don't worry, if you weren't a Final Fantasy player before, you won't be lost. There will always be fan service and little nods here or there, but to understand what's currently happening, all you need to do is play the game. There are hundreds of hours of cutscenes throughout the whole leveling process. Most of them really good, some kind of iffy, and some that are just mind-blowingly amazing. I learned the hard way, don't skip cutscenes, just because it makes your leveling go faster. Take your time, watch the cutscenes, enjoy them, or you'll be like me, spending a ton of extra time on YouTube watching lore catch-up videos, and that's a sin. When you start leveling your character, at first you can prioritize the MSQ and your class quests every 5 levels. That alone will have one job completely leveled and usually a couple levels ahead of your current content. When leveling other classes, doing the hunting log for your class and its starter quests can usually get you up to at least level 15. At that point, there are multitudes of ways to level to max, if not as quick as the MSQ, still enjoyable. There are also duty of the hand and duty of the land jobs, your basic gathering and crafting professions in game. But it's actually super in depth. I haven't been able to get too deep into it yet myself. Yes, I know, 600 hours in. But I can already tell you there's a lot more to do than clicking nodes and clicking to make your specific recipe and then waiting. I'm really excited to check out more that the crafting has to offer. The next biggest part of the game is the community. Man, what a change of pace for me as a WoW player. You don't have dungeon groups in a level 30 dungeon implode after one wipe. People don't just expect you to know every single mechanic before ever actually playing it. Hell, there's even a specific mode at endgame where you can simply practice the hardest fights in a group where everyone knows that we're all just learning. You might die a lot, but it also gives you a chance for some hilarious moments and great learning experiences. The community in this game is great, and they have really accepted a lot of us WoW refugees, graciously and warmly. There's an indicator you get when you're new, and you're called a sprout, and get put into the novice network. This thing is as good as the I'm new badge at work. People are super nice to you. They'll always help explain things, answer any questions you have, as well as help enforce the one rule: let the sprouts watch their cutscenes. In dungeons and other group content, they will always be patient and make sure the main thing is that everyone is enjoying the game. It's honestly so weird to think about what we accepted as the norm in World of Warcraft. Looking back now, I don't know if I could handle some of the toxicity that that game can bring with endgame content. Finally, there's the endgame content: dungeons, raids, and trials, all of which are harder content that drops higher level loot, with harder mechanics and higher health pools. Basic MMO stuff, but what I've grown to love about this system is a couple things. First, in raids, there's no trash, it's just the boss fight, usually 3 or 4 broken up into different raids. No trash, no long corpse runs, you just fight the boss, and if you wipe, everyone just gets back up and tries again. No one complaining about losing food or world buffs. The game values everyone's time, and that makes people have more patience and are more willing to keep trying on those extra hard fights. Next, the loot. Final Fantasy goes back to the token system. Instead of tons of gear with specific drop rates and grinds, the harder bosses drop gear tokens that can be redeemed for whatever gear you want from the raid vendor. So for example, if you want the level 580 chest from the Endwalker raids, then you have to loot 4 tokens from the 4 different raids, only getting 1 piece of loot per boss per week. While the rings and accessories only require 1 accessory token, so if you plan a bit ahead, you can maximize your loot received in a week to get multiple pieces. Or you can not plan at all and find yourself with nothing one week, which I did. The last thing I really enjoyed about the systems in Final Fantasies are for the EX trials. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, some of the hardest content in the game, you can join practice parties where the group is working together to learn the fight with no expectations of actually killing the boss. If you do, great, but it's no sweat if you don't. Something that is totally unheard of in World of Warcraft, where you watch multiple videos of a hard mode content fight or do the easier modes that don't even compare to the hard modes. Then, once again, you go into a fight, you guys die once, and everyone leaves, and you're back to where you started. Final Fantasy XIV respects the player's time, and if WoW taught us anything,
time is money, friend.